bottom of 115b. The second to the bottom line is Tanur Rabbanan. Today's daf is 116, so it's just 2 lines before the new daf. It was taught in a brisa. Vayehi b'nesaya ha'aron, and it quotes the pasuk. It was when the ark traveled. Vayemer Moshe, and Moshe said. So in the text, I don't have a ticket here, but if you look at Dr. Stein's background, you can see you can see the breaks in the section, in the paragraphs, and in that break there's these nuns. So they're called upside down nuns. It's hard to tell if they're upside down. They're backwards. They're facing the opposite. So this section, Hashem made signs above and below, to tell us that this is not its position. It's supposed to be somewhere else. It's telling us that it doesn't belong in this location in the Torah. Rabbi, we'll see, the Gemara is going to explain a little bit. So, you see what's happening in the book of Bamidbar is that it starts off telling us about the encampment and the flags, the banners that the 3 tribes had on the 4 sides of the way they camped. Now, then it goes on to some other things and different things in Parshas Nasa. Where is this? This is in middle of Balaischa, you have this Vahi ben Saya. Now, what happened before this is Hashem tells him to make the trumpets, and then on the 2nd month of the 2nd year, on the 20th of the month, that's Chaf Iyar, on the 20th of the month, the cloud rose from above the tabernacle, and the people begin traveling from Midbar Sinai. They're leaving Midbar Sinai. And right after that it says, Moshe tells his father-in-law, let's come along with us. He says, no, I'm going back to my place. And Vayi ben Sayaran. And right after that it says the people complained. And 4 verses later it says that there's the Asafsuf. It's a mixed multitude. Had a lusting. Asavutaiva. Okay. So this doesn't belong here. This really belongs in the setup of the camps, how they were set up, where were discussing the flags. Rabbi says this is not accurate. That's not true. It's really in the right place. So why do you have those signs? It's coming to tell us that this is an independent book. Yeah, it's a small book. So there's really, according to this, you're going to see there's really 7 books to the Torah. Because the first half of Bamidbar, that would be a total of 5. Vahi ben Sayaran. And then the second half of Bamidbar makes 7. Right? You know, so we just added 2 books to the Torah. There's 5 books to the Torah. We just added 2 because of Vahi ben Sayaran, and Bamidbar was just divided in half, so you'll count those for 2 books. So, Kaman Azla Hadam Rab Shmuel Bar, it's supposed to be Nachmani. According to whom does the statement of Rab Shmuel Bar Nachmani go? Amar Rabbi Yonasan. It says the name of Rabbi Yonasan. Chatzva Amudeh Shiva. It says over there that a wise woman, Chachmas, I think Chachmas Isha Ban Sabesa, remember, but a wise woman built her house, and in her house she carved 7 pillars. Elu Shiva Sifrei Torah. These are the 7 books of the Torah. Sifrei Torah. You hear that? Sifrei Torah, books of the Torah. Okay, come on. Who does that go like? Rabbi. That goes like Rabbi, because Rabbi was the one that said that Vayi ben Sayaran is in its place, and we just have those signs there to tell us that it's an independent book. Man Tana de Palagala de Rabbi. This is the opinion that argues on Rabbi, which is the first opinion that says that it's out of place. We didn't give a name to that opinion. It was the Tanakama of a Brisa. Important Brisa, but Tanakama. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, that's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, it's Rabbi's father. The Tanya was taught in a Brisa, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, in the future, when the Yetzer Hara is gone and there's no reason to discuss punishments, so then things will go back into place in the parts of the Torah that don't talk about punishments and Averis. But we won't need them to be emphasized. So then, this is B'Talin. So then this will go back into its place. It will leave from where it's written and will go put back in its place. So why was it here? It's already understood why. To divide between the two punishments. Now, this is very difficult because the section right before this was not a punishment. It's a conversation Moshe had with his father-in-law. Right after this, the people sinned. They complained. The problem is that there's 3 verses here right afterwards. The first verse is Vayiyam K'Mesaynim Rabbos Hashem. The people complained. In the English, and when the people complained, it displeased the Lord. And his anger was kindled. And it burned among them and consumed those who were in the uttermost parts of the camp. That's the first pasuk. People cried out to Moshe. That's the second pasuk. And Moshe called the place Tavera, because the fire of Hashem burned. That's the third pasuk. The fourth pasuk after this says, V'asafsaf, and the mixed multitude was among them, fell a lusting, and the children also wept again, and said, who shall give us meat to eat? So are those 2 separate events? They're both after, but are those 2 separate events? Anyway, it says like this. Punish Nehemiah. What's the second punishment that we're dividing between with this section? As we put this Vayiben Sayarin to interrupt some negative occurrence. So it says, well, afterwards it says, Vayiyam K'Mesaynim. The people complained. That's easy. Puranas Rishayna. What's the first punishment? What's the first negative occurrence? Vayisu Mehar Hashem. People traveled away from the mountain of God. So that is it says Nala Anan Bismini Salam Midbar Sinai. Does it actually say what pasuk is in Perek Yud? Do you have a pasuk there? Does it say what pasuk it is? Vayisu Mehar Hashem. Yeah, it's pasuk Lamed Gimel. Vayisu Mehar Hashem derech shleish yamim. V'arim b'ris Hashem nisei lefneim derech shleish yamim l'slam menucha. Okay, so the way that it's going to be read over here is V'amar Rab Chaim bar Chanina shesaru me'achrei Hashem. They strayed from following God. It's possible that there's another pshat over here, and that is maher. Where did I see that? That they went quickly. The Yisu mehar. Somewhere it says that the word maher is being taught as mehar is being taught as maher. And Tosfos over here said, well, there's a machlekes Rashi and Tosfos. What's going on over here? Rashi learns that Vayisu me'achrei Hashem, they traveled away from God. That's the Asafsuf. That's the 4 psukim later after the complainers. That story of the Asafsuf, that mixed multitude, is alluded to in that pasuk Lamed Gimel. They traveled away from God. It tells us the story afterwards, but it's alluded to beforehand. So we break that section up with Vayiben Sayarin. Okay, yeah, I mean, when you read the Parsha, you would never have realized that, but that's what the Gemara is telling us. Tosfos learns different. This is more like a classroom sort of Tosfos. He says that by Yisum Har Hashem, Tosfos says that it's like a tinak hayetzim mibeis hasefer shebereach le v'hoilach le. Recess, all the desks get pushed and there's a charge to the door. So that's the child is running out of the classroom. They were at the mountain too long. They studied too much Torah and they wanted to leave. That was the negative occurrence. Okay, v'heichen makaima. So according to that, where is this really supposed to be? Amar Rav Ashi b'degalim. It's supposed to go back in the section earlier. Spoke about the flags. Okay. Now, we have a very interesting discussion. Talking about a fire on Shabbos. We said there's certain things, you're not supposed to start saving things from the fire. You might end up putting out the fire. And then there was another issue of where you're allowed to take it to as well. We said that Sifrei Kodesh, you're allowed to save. What about the margins? Now, at the beginning of the Torah scroll, you're supposed to have a margin there that should at least cover the Atzichayim, the poles. At the end, you should have a margin that should cover the scroll. That's when it's wrapped up. It's a larger margin. What about the margins? Okay, it doesn't tell us exactly. If you remember yesterday, we discussed the Sefer Torah that has 85 letters. That's going to be a bit of an issue here, because just the fact that we're asking this question. Are you allowed to save the margins of the Torah scroll? It says Tashima. Let's take a look. Come and listen. Sefer Torah Shabbalah. Let's say there's a Sefer Torah that's decaying. If it has 85 letters, if it has 85 letters, then you can save it from Lavin Matzilin, but if not, you can't save it. Why do you have to tell me about 85 letters? But it has margins. If you say that you have to save a Torah because the margins are holy, so what's the difference if it has 85 letters? The margins are holy. This reminds me, this, I forget his name, Palachik was Rosh Yeshiva in Yeshiva University. They called it the Meitziter Eily. Rabbi Shlomo Palachik, many years ago. He didn't speak English, but every morning he sat there with the newspaper, he read the newspaper. So they asked him, you don't speak English, what are you doing with the newspaper? So he said, yeah, in Russia, I would read the paper, but in Russia, they didn't write the news. So you had to learn how to read between the lines. So he said, I still, I don't read the paper, but I can still read between the lines. So, okay, so here you have, the Sefer Torah itself doesn't have 85 letters, but you have between the lines, you have all the margins and all of that. What about the margins? The Gemara answers, Bala Shiny. We're talking about a Sefer Torah that's decaying. Now, I don't know at this point in the Gemara, it's going to be clear a little later, but at this point in the Gemara, does it mean that it's decaying and there are no margins because it's decaying? Or does it mean that the margins aren't holy because it's decaying? Because are there margins there? It's unclear. Later on in the Gemara, I think it's going to get a little clearer. But right here, for example, Rashi says, the Kivan Shabala Afagilian Batal. I don't know what does it mean, Batal. Batal means that it was also Bala, that it was also decayed. And as we're talking about that, it's decaying. Okay, let's go a little further. We'll get a little clarity in the future, further down the page. Tashma, Sefer Torah Shenimchak, the Sefer Torah that got erased. If there's 85 letters that could be collected, you save that. It's considered a Torah. And if not, then you don't save it. What about the margin? There's a margin. If you had a question, if you can save it, a Torah scroll because of the margin. Here there's a margin. It was just erased. It wasn't decaying. The Gemara answers like this. We're not asking about the area where the letters are written. The chikadosh agav ksavhu the kadosh. That was sanctified because the letters were there. Azal ksav, azla kedushase. The letters left, the holiness left. Got erased. It was only holy, this is very surprising. It was only holy because of the letters. The letters left, the holiness left. Daniel, you're thinking about Rabbi, who was it with the letters going up? I forget who it was. Not Rabbi Akiva, the other one. Maybe Chinin ben Shadin or something.
I was thinking about Moshe Rabbeinu and the Luchos. When the letters went heavier.
Asura Aruhe Asura
In the Sarge Malchus, it says the letters were floating.
One of them.
So Kikami Eily, that's not our question regarding the area of the letters. Our question is Kikami Eily Shel Maila v'Shel Mata v'Shebein Pasha l'Pasha Shebein Daf l'Daf Shebetchilas HaSefer Shebeseifa HaSefer. We're not talking about you see, all of a sudden we're discussing the margin. Like, oh, there's a lot of margin here because all the letters are gone because it got erased. So you say, no, we're not talking about that. Is not margin. That's not the Gillian. All of that is not holy because the letters aren't there. Where is the margin that we're discussing that has a holiness? That's in between the columns, on the bottom, on the top, in between the sections. Those were never sanctified because of the letters. They're sanctified because of the margins, and they're still there. That's still, the question is good. So the Gemara sort of like gave an answer, but then with the questions all of a sudden like falls back on us. You said that if there's 85 letters there, then you can save it, and if not, not. So we said, well, there's got to be a margin. So he said, no, we're not talking about the margin that's in the place of the letters. That's not holy at all, that empty area. I said, well, what about the margin that's on the side? Save it even if there aren't 85 letters. There's a margin there on the side, on the columns, in between the columns or in between sections. The Gemara answers, the guy is v'shadi. It was cut off. So you only have got clipped. You only have the exact columns without any margin. And even in those columns, you don't have 85 letters. Or if you do have 85 letters, then you save it. Okay, so this is like where it's, so what did Bala mean before? Did Bala also mean that it decayed? That I'm still not sure yet. Let's go a little further. Because here it's where we cut it off. Tashima, hal gilyanin shel ma'ila v'shel mata shebein parsha leparsha shebein daf ledaf shebetchilas hasefer shebeseifa hasefer metaminus yadayim. Okay, the margins that are on the top of the column, that are under the column, that are in between sections, in between columns, at the beginning of a new sefer, you have a bunch of lines over there. Is it 4 lines, I think? Or at the end of the sefer, all of those margins contaminate the hands. Now, we had earlier in Masechta Shabbos, we had 18 things that were decrees by Shammai that overpowered Beis Hillel at a certain attic. One of those things was that scrolls give contamination to the hands. You know, the scrolls are so holy, but they contaminate the hands if the person wants to touch truma. And I think the reason why that was imposed was because people were putting their truma together with scrolls, and then the mice were coming and eating the grain that was there and ended up eating the scrolls, so they instituted a contamination, an impurity on the scrolls. They shouldn't put the food together with it. Okay, so if that's the case, so which part of the scroll is holy? So we see over here the Gillian is holy, the margins are also holy. If the margins are holy, then we should have an answer that you can save the margins. You can save the scroll because there's a margin there. Dil Magav Sefer Torah shiny, maybe because there's a whole Sefer Torah there, it's different. Maybe the contamination is coming off the Torah, the text, extending through the margins. What we're asking is if there's only the margin. Not if there's a whole Torah there. Maybe the contamination comes by extension through the margin. Tashma, let's see further. We're still looking for the answer to this question. Are the margins of the Torah scroll holy to the extent that you can save them on Shabbos? Okay, now we enter into another little topic over here. It says, I'm sorry?
Just trying to understand the question. So you're saying that there's a Sefer Torah that has the lines in it, but there's no letters. I'm not picturing it. In other words, we're not talking about Shabalu, we're not saying Shinim Cheku, we're saying that there's just spaces, but where are the letters? The letters were never written?
Right. Maybe it just started, or maybe it's just a piece of the
cloth,
Torah.
an empty piece of cloth with 4 amudim.
Right.
So it's not just the between the lines, it's the whole cloth.
Yeah, so what we said is that the whole cloth doesn't have any holiness because the letters made it holy. There's no letters. So the question is, what about the margins? So you're asking, what are the margins there if there's nothing there? Why is it considered a margin? That's what you're asking.
Right.
If there's no, maybe it means a section of it. Maybe it means that it got cut off.
Well, I understand the beginning and the end. That is clear. So if he just had the beginning part of the cloth, he had the sefer, but he had that beginning part that rolls on the amudim. Or maybe even if someone trimmed, whatever, just there's the top and the bottom where there's nothing ever written there.
Right.
I don't know, I'm not.
Right. Yeah. Can it be translated as it's just a piece? I don't know if they had like large scrolls. They probably sewed many pieces together.
It said Gilyonis. I thought it was just talking about cloth that was designated. It was made l'shem kedushas, whatever. So it already had the intention of the Sefer Torah, but nothing yet was actually written on it, or maybe at the tail end of it. But most of it is still just blank. Right.
Do you remember somewhere? Did we have? Are you allowed to? We had somewhere that you're allowed. Are you allowed to take a piece of a Sefer Torah to use it for tefillin or mezuzah? Remember we had that. We had a discussion. Yeah, we had. It was in this Masechta, I think.
Yeah, but it was earlier.
Okay, so now we enter. A new topic gets introduced here. It says Al Gilyonis v'Sifrei Minim. Sifrei Minim, the Sfarim that belong to. It's not so clear if they belong to or if it was written by. Taisvus has a discussion about this. By the heretics. Now, what's happening here is that there were early Christians that had the Torah. They had the what they called the Old Testament, and but they didn't follow everything. They had their own group. So we have both of these things together: margins of a scroll and scrolls of heretics are not saved from a fire on Shabbos. They're burned in their place, them and the names of God that are in them. My love, the Sefer Torah. It must mean the margins of the Sefer Torah, you don't save them. We have an answer. Margins of a Sefer Torah or books of heretics are not saved. The Gemara says, Loi, that's not about how you read it. Gilyoinen de Sifrei Minim. The margins of the books of the heretics you don't save. This is 1 second. Is that really how you read it? Hash de Sifrei Minim gufayo ematzilin Gilyoinen mi bayi. If you don't save the books, you're going to say you're supposed to save the margins of the books. It's obviously not the pshat. The Gemara says, Hachi kamar. The Sifrei Minim hariyan kil Gilyoinen. What it wants to tell you is that books of heretics have the same holiness as a margin, which means that there's no holiness there and you don't save it. It means it's not considered anything. Gufa. Let's go back to examine this. Why does it say Gufa? It should say Amar Mar. Gufa is when we discuss Amirayim. This is a Tesefta. Okay, I don't know. Margins in books of heretics are not saved from a fire. on Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi Omer b'chol. Rabbi Yossi says in a weekday, koider saskaris Rebbeim v'gointon, bashar seifin. You cut out the names of God. The koider is like to use like an awl or use something that could poke out the the whole things that they use to put it in the loose leaf. You take out the names of God, and the rest gets burnt. The names of God get buried. Reb Tarfon says, that's a strong statement. It means that he'd bury his children. That's like an oath that if these books would come to my hands, I would burn them and the names of God that are in them. And look at this. If a person is being chased, and there's a snake that's coming after him. That nichnas lebeis avodah zara, you can go hide in a church, but nichnas lebeteim shalelo, but don't hide in avodah zara's a place of idol worship. But don't go into one of the houses of these heretics. Their places of worship. Shalala makirim v'kaifrin. Over there, they recognize and they deny. But these don't recognize and they deny. In other words, the idolaters are better than these people. The idolaters, they think that there's an idol that's running the world. So they don't know better. So they bow to this statue or whatever. That's what they. But here, they know Hashem, and they just don't treat him properly, as they have the awareness and they still don't treat Hashem properly. Regarding them, it says, behind the doorpost, behind the doorway is where they put your memory. They know the Torah and they don't give it the proper respect. That's the early heretics. This is referring to the early Christians, where it wasn't so clear exactly the distinctions, and there was like groups and different things. Amar Rabbi Yishmael. As I'm reading this, I didn't look through the whole thing in the other texts, but follow if I'm missing anything from the Chesrenes Hashas. This Gemara got censored. I know definitely on the next page there's some words that were taken out, but there may be like a few words here and there if you have the Steinsaltz or the new prints. Okay, so now it says Amar Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael says Kal v'chaimer. To make peace between husband and wife. So Hashem says, my name that was written in holiness should be dissolved in this water, to make peace between husband and wife. Because the woman was forbidden to her husband because of what she was suspected. After she drinks the water, then if she's innocent, she can go back to her husband. So we erase God's name to make peace between husband and wife. So, Shematilim Kina, Ve'eva V'sachras, to create jealousy and hatred. And Ben Yisrael Avim Shebashamayim Malachas Kama V'Kama. In other words, these texts that cause hatred between God and the Jewish people, between the Jewish people and their Father in heaven, for sure should be erased to make peace between them. This is what David said. Those that hate you, I hate. Those that rise against you, I fight. With ultimate hatred, I hate them. They're my enemies to me. Just like you can't save them from a fire, you can't save them from a flood or from a collapse, a building collapse. You don't save them. You don't save them from Seamus. The boxes people throw out. There's all of these books in there. You don't have to take them out and say, oh, this is a good book. Okay. Boy Mine, says Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanan me Rabavo. Yosef Bar Chanan asked Rabavo, Hani Sifri de Be'avidan, Matzilin Lesim Pnei Adleika in Matzilin. Apparently, there was a place that was a place of debate, and it wasn't a place of worship. It was a place of scholarship. It would be comparable to a library or some social place where they would gather, they had books there, and the people would discuss intelligent things. So the books that were in this library, the Be'avidan library, should you save them? There's Sifrei Torah there, they have. So Rabbi Vo he says yes, Valav, he says no. For Rafya Biyade, he doesn't give a clear answer. Rav Leyasala Be'avidan. Rav never went to this place. Vikolshkin LeBei Nitzrafi, he for sure didn't go to Bei Nitzrafi. Bei Nitzrafi was actually a place of worship, and over there they also had texts. They had.
Sounds like today's universities.
There's a very interesting book out about the Strashun Library in Vilna. It was a very large library. It was like a first Jewish library, a public library. And the yeshiva bachim in Vilna were not allowed to visit there. They had treifa books. They weren't allowed to go. Except the elite, those yeshiva bachim that were already advanced, they were allowed to go there for research. But the younger bachim weren't allowed in there. So, Shmuel lebei Nitzrafi leyasal lebei Avidan also Shmuel would go visit this place of where they had this book collection and debates. Amlei l'Rava, these heretics told Rava, "My time leyasal lebei Avidan. Why don't you come visit the Be'avidan? Come. There's good stuff there. There's books, debate." Just, Amar lahu dikla planya ikaba urcha v'kashlio. There's a palm tree on the path. It's hard for me to walk. It's like the road isn't so straight. It was clearly gave an answer that was not it was some answer just to push them away. So he said, Neakri, in that case, we'll just take out the tree. That's what happens. You give an excuse. They can say, well, we can take care of that. So he says, no, duchti kashli. Then there's going to be a hole in the ground. It's still going to be hard if you take away the tree. So, okay. Mar bar Yosef Amar, anami nayo ana, v'lei mustafina minayo. Mar bar Yosef said, I'm not afraid of them. I'm going to go over there. Zimnacha da azal bo l'sakune. One time he went and they got into danger. Doesn't say what happened, but it became dangerous. Okay, Ema Shalom de Bisid Rabbi Lezer, Achte de Ram Gamliel Havoy. We've had this before, at least these names, when Rabbi Eliezer was put into Cherem. No, that's in Bava Metzia. That's in Bava Metzia. But we did. I think we had Ema Shalom somewhere in Brachas. Ema Shalom was the wife of Rabbi Eliezer, and she's the sister of Ram Gamliel. So they're brothers-in-law, Ram Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer. There's a lot of politics there because Ram Gamliel was the head of the yeshiva and all of that, and Rabbi Eliezer was expelled from the yeshiva. So his wife is in the middle over there. That's the Gemara in Bava Metzia that discusses that. When she doesn't let Rabbi Eliezer say Tachnan, she's afraid that her brother's going to die. So what happens over here is that Ema Shalom and Rabbi Eliezer and Ram Gamliel and her brother are going to make a fake case to show that the heretics aren't so they don't have the real integrity. So Havahu philosopher b'shvivuse, they had this philosopher. He was a heretic. He was in their neighborhood. Davishakal Shma, he put out the name, put a sign on his door. It says that he doesn't accept bribes. No bribes, please. He doesn't. He wants to show he's very.
Sorry, can you go back?
Yeah.
You don't have where it says Rabbi Meir?
Oh, so 1 second. Now I have to look. I don't have Rabbi Meir. What does it say over there?
Rabbi Meir have a karle oven gilyon, and Rabbi Yochanan have a karle oven with an ayin gilyon.
Second. This text may have it. Oh, excellent. So on the next page we have that. That I noticed on the next. I didn't see it that it was over here. Rabbi Meir have a karle oven gilyon.
Right.
Meir would call the writings Evangelion, and Rabbi Yochanan Avikarle Evangelion.
Right.
One with an aleph and one with an ayin. Either oven is wicked, or according to Rabbi Yochanan, sinful.
And then Ema Shalom. That's
Now we have Ema Shalom, yeah. So that was taken out. That was taken out by the censors. That's not in my.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
This is what in Mitzrayim with Talmud? Where?
Who took this out?
Yeah. Who took
the censorship of the Gemara was self-censored. We took it out so that we should be allowed to print it. Otherwise,
evangelicals?
That's what it sounds like. Evangelion is Evangelion. Evangelion. They would have understood that it was against. Today we put it back in. Okay. Okay, so this fellow puts out a name that he doesn't take bribes. So they want to make a joke out of him. And now Eily did have so she gives him a golden lamp, golden candle or golden lamp, and then she comes to him. She says, I want to inherit from my father's estate, Nasha, from my father's house. So he says, okay, divide it. You and your brother, Ema Shalom and Rabbi Gamliel, are brother sister. So divide it in half. So Rabbi Gamliel responds. He says, Ksivlan b'makim bra brata leiteris. It says if there's a son, the daughter doesn't inherit. Yitzi, you follow this? Amalei. So the guy says, the philosopher says, I have to read this I'm afraid I'm going to miss something from the censorship. It's unbelievable. It's the words are missing in my Gemara. He says, since the day that you were exiled from your land, the Torah of Moses was taken away. This Yehivas Evangelion, and this Evangelion was put in its place. Uksiv Bey Bro Brata Kachada Yerson, and over there it says the son and the daughter inherit together. Does it actually say that in the New Testament? I don't know. I don't have the type of Gemara that gives me those sources. Okay, Lamachar Hadar Ayale Iu Chamraluba. So the next day, Rabbi Gamliel offers him a Libyan donkey. Okay, he's another bribe from the other side. Amrlahu Shvelas Lasefedavain Gilyan because of Bay. Then he says to them, I looked at the end of the Evangelion, and over there it says, I did not come to subtract from the Torah of Moses. I did not come to add to the Torah of Moses. This sounds like things I've heard before. And now in the Torah of Moses, it says that the son doesn't, the daughter doesn't inherit if there's a son. Amrale, so she says, may your nahar naharach kishraga, may your light shine like a lamp. She's giving away a secret there. Amrale Rabbi Gamliel says, Asa chamra batos l'shraga, my donkey came and kicked your lamp. It means like they revealed the bribes that this was all because of the bribes. Now, he quotes of it here, the Masha, that they didn't actually give it to them. They told him that they would give it to him, or they showed him what they could give him. They didn't actually bribe the philosopher. They merely showed him items that would be appropriate as bribes. So he was expecting the bride. That's the story. Do we have anything more in there? No. Now it says, why don't you read? This was a little bit vague before. You're not supposed to read from the Ksuvim. Why don't you read from the Ksuvim? That's during the time of the study hall. Now, apparently, the Rav would give a drasha before they went home for Kiddush Shabbos morning. And that was the time of the study hall. Right? They would study before they davened at night, so it's hard to compare. But that's the time that they studied. At the time that's not the time of the study hall, Karen, you're allowed to read from the books of the Ksuvim, the writings, which is Mishle Yev, Daniel, all of that. Divrei Yamin. Shmuel Amar, the rest of the day you're allowed to read, according to Rav. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says you can't read it the whole day. You can't read the writings on Shabbos. Eily, is that really so? Shmuel said that? You can't read the writings on Shabbos? Nardoi is the place of Shmuel. Shmuel was the Rav in Nardoi. And over there, they would read the writings by Mincha time on Shabbos. They probably had an earlier Shalosh Shudas. And they would read the writings. Ella Iitmar in the afternoon. Minchas of the Shabbos. Maybe they had Shalosh Shudas later. This is the afternoon. They would read the writings. It doesn't fit with what Shmuel's statement is that you can't read the writings on Shabbos. Ella Iitmar Hach Iitmar. You have to say it differently. We're going to adjust this whole thing. It's going to be totally different. Amarav Leishanala b'makim beis hamedrash. If there is a beis hamedrash there, then you can't read the writings. But outside of the beis hamedrash, or if there's no beis hamedrash there, then you're allowed to read Karen. You're allowed to read the writing. It has to do with, we don't want it to interrupt or to interfere with the people attending the beis hamedrash and listening to the drasha that the Rav is giving. Shmuel says, doesn't matter if there is a beis hamedrash or if you're in the beis hamedrash or you're out of the beis hamedrash. Bisman beis hamedrash ain't kairen. People they'll do like this. They say, "Look, I'm not going to read the writings inside the beis hamedrash. That would be maybe disrespectful or something. I'll go outside. I'll read it outside." Shmuel says, "No. During the beis hamedrash, even outside, you're not allowed to read over there. You have to go. There's nothing else you can do. You have to be bored. You have to go to the beis hamedrash and listen. You shouldn't be nothing should interfere with listening to the speech. But if the speech isn't going on, it's after the speech. Kairen, you're allowed to read it. And this here, Shmuel goes with what was in his town. That's what they would read in the afternoon. There was no shir in the afternoon. That's what they would read. Ravashi says it's actually the way we said it originally, where Shmuel says that the whole day you're not allowed to read it. It's going to have a problem up here. Shmuel goes like Reb Nechemya. The Tanya was taught in a brayso, even though it says that the holy writings you're not supposed to read from them, but you're allowed to review them. And you're allowed to expound on them. That means you can learn the medrash on them, but you don't read them for the first time. Now, nitzrach lepasuk, if you have to look something up, maybe v'rayaba, you're allowed to look inside and look it up. Amar Rab Nechemya. Rab Nechemya, his opinion is, why should you not read them on Shabbos? If there's certain holy books that you're not allowed to read, for sure you can't read documents in other books. People they read their contracts or whatever, all of that. It's Shabbos. I'll just look through this pile of this file that I have to see which contracts and what people owe me and different things. It's called Shtari Hadiyaitis.
I just have a quick question. When he brought in the donkey as the
right.
bride, but the wife brought him the menorah as a bride.
Right.
So the menorah didn't work, but the donkey did.
So on the first day, the menorah worked. He said, "Yeah, you follow the Evangelion, and over there it says that the daughter and the son inherit together." So he brings in a donkey, and then the next day he says, "I guess the case took 2 days." He says, "Oh, I looked further. It says that I didn't come to subtract from the Torah of Moses."
Right.
So you have to follow that. So Rabbi Gamliel says, "See, the donkey kicked over the lamb."
So he was basically responding to each person that was coming. So she
Right.
came. Okay.
They say this judge gets a big envelope. He thinks it's full of. The guy sneaks it under the table. So he doesn't open it up, of course. It's the middle of the case. But when he gets home, he opens it up. He saw it wasn't really dollar bills. It was just papers. He says, "Today, people are so dishonest."
I feel like that joke is from your father. I feel like your father told you that joke.
Okay. Matzilin tik hasefer and masefer. The new Mishnah over here. It says you're allowed to save the case of the tick. Sounds like it's like the Sephardic Torah scrolls, but not necessarily. You're allowed to save the container that the Torah comes in, the casing. The tikat tefillin matfillin, and you're allowed to save the case of the tefillin as well. Afal pi sheish b'seichen mas, even if there's money inside. You have to see exactly what that means. Is that an issue of muktzah? Is that you can use that to save? So where do you save that to? Only to, I'm not only, even to a mavi that's eina mafulish. No, mafulish means that it's open on both sides. Only to a mavi that is closed on 3 sides. So really it's a rishus hayachid, just there's a decree on that there should be a lechi and a kaira. There should be a beam on it to block it off, an alley. So Ben Beseira after mafulish, Ben Beseira says no, you can even save it into a mavi mafulish, which is much more lenient. Taner Rabbanan, we enter into a discussion here. And the reason why we enter into this is because we're going to use our mission as a proof for something in this discussion. It looks like not related, but it comes back. It says, Taner Abba Asur Shchalias B'Shabbos, the 14th day of Nisan, that's on Shabbos. Now, the 14th day of Nisan is not Pesach yet. That evening is going to be Pesach. It's Erev Pesach. But Erev Pesach is the day that the sacrifice of Pesach is brought. So that evening, they're going to eat the karban. That evening is going to be Yom Tov. Shabbos is going to be over. However, the sacrifice itself is brought on Shabbos. Now, what are you allowed to do on Shabbos? What do you have to wait for the evening after Shabbos for Yom Tov to do? So the first opinion here says, Mafshitin as a Pesach ad hachazer. When you're skinning the animal, which that's something that should not be done on Shabbos, I'm supposed to skin the animal on Shabbos, but you have to be able to remove parts of the animal, the inside, to put it on the altar because it's a sacrifice. So he says you can only skin it until the chest. You would start at the feet and pull the skin down until the chest, but you couldn't skin it all the way up past the front legs. Div Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shor Rabbi Yechim Breka. The Chachamim say, Mafshitin es kulai. You can take all the skin off. It's on Shabbos. The Gemara says, Bishlam Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shor Rabbi Yechim Breka. We understand his opinion well. The Savalei Tzarech Gavaya. Because this is being performed for what's necessary for the Mizbeach. You have to be able to remove the organs that are inside, so you take the skin off, so you should be able to get in there. El Rabbanan, my time, but what's the reason of the Rabbanan?
What does all of this have to do with the Mishnah?
We're going to get back to it.
No.
We're going to get back to it. It's going to come in and as a proof. So we're introducing a subject here. What's the reason for the Rabbanan? Amar Rabbi Bar Chana Rabbi Yechanan Damar Kra. Rabbi Bar Chana says the name of Rabbi Yechanan. The pasuk says, "Kol Pal Hashem L'Maneu." All that Hashem has made is for His sake. The prohibited action is only permitted if its performance honors God. Now, how does this honor God? By skinning the holy animal. So now we have a few opinions. Rav Yosef Amar Shlo Yasriach. Rav Yosef says that if you leave the skin on, the flesh could rot and smell. Rava Amar Shlo Yekadsheh Shmayim Matalim Knevela. Rava says so that the sacrifices should not lay there like a carcass with half the skin on, half the skin off. It's disrespectful for the sacrifice. We have two opinions here to explain why this should be treated differently. What's the difference between Rav Yosef and Rava? The difference is if it's placed on a platter of gold. If it's like a carcass, well, this is not a carcass. But if it's because it may rot, it's still going to rot the same way. I guess at the heat of the skin and it doesn't allow it the air to get in. It could ruin the. So if it looks respectful, that would be acceptable according to Rava, but it still isn't respectful according to Rabbi Yosef. Inami yaima de astana, or it's a cool day. Rashi goes through if it means the wind is coming from the north or if it means the wind is coming from the south. But whatever the case is, that it's not going to rot. So it's the opposite opinion. Because it's a cool day, it won't rot, but it still looks like a carcass. Okay. Rabbi Shmuel benoi shel Rabbi Yechanan ben Breka haypol Hashem l'maneo mayavidlai. What does he say? That everything that is made for Hashem, all of Hashem's actions are l'maneo, or for His honor. He's saying that you do have to skin it. You shouldn't just make an incision in the skin and take the emurim out. My timer, why not? Amar Rav Huna Breder Rav Nasan Mishum Niman. Because then when you take the organs out, when there's just an incision there in the skin, all the hairs that are on the skin are going to end up on the organs, and it's probably becomes disgusting. That's what it seems to be saying. So you remove the skin so it doesn't get full of hair as you're pulling it out. Amrlei, let's stop right here, right before we get to the point why it comes into the Mishnah. Unless you want to do. Okay, we'll do one thing. At least you should see what the Mishnah is doing here. Another line. Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Marukva. Rav Chizda says the name of Marukva. What do the rabbis respond to Rabbi Yechanan ben Breka? Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yechanan ben Breka, who says that you should not take all the skin off. This is what they said. If you're allowed to save together with the Sefer Torah, the casing of the Sefer Torah, you're allowed to take that outside into whatever area, and you're allowed to save it from a fire. Can you not take all the skin off the Korban Pesach? Over there, you do a little bit extra together with the Torah. And over here, you should take off all the skin. So he responds, Midami. How can you compare? Hasam tiltal, hacham malacha. Over there, it's just an issue of carrying. And over here, with tiltal, it's maybe there's no erev or something. But over here, you're doing a real malacha by skinning an animal. Okay, let's leave it by Amar Rav Ashi. We'll do the Amar Rav Ashi. We'll explain that. Okay.